Yaschandasam Vrishabha Vishvarupah Chandobhyodhyamritat sambhabhuva Samindro medhaya spranotu Amritasya devadharano bhuyasam Shariram me vicharshanam Jitva me madhumatkama Karnabhyam bhuri vishruvam Brahmana koshosi medhaya pihita Shrutam me gopaya. We pray to Om, the Pranava, the primordial sound, which is indeed the highest that is pointed out by the Vedas. We pray to Omkara to bless us with good health, strong limbs, and above all, the ability to remember what we study in spiritual programs and live by those teachings. Om. The mantra I recited to begin this session was in praise of Om, and it is found in Taittiriya Upanishad, the very first Valli called Shiksha Valli. Here we are to get into episode 4 on understanding Hinduism. And we have thought of covering 2 mantras, 2 symbols, and a little on Avatāras. The sequence we will adopt is to take the 2 symbols first, Om and Swastika, then the 2 mantras, Gayatri and Mrityunjaya mantra, and then if time remains, we will touch upon Avatāras. I doubt if there will be time for talking on God's incarnations in this session. Let's get going now with taking up Omkara. Let me try to show some slides for that purpose. Here we go. And yes. Webinar 248 on July 9, 2023. Understanding Hinduism, episode 4. And this is presented by Koi Forum. First, we take up the symbol Om. We are going to alternate between dwelling on important concepts, practices, theories, ideas of Hinduism on one hand, and topics where there are controversies, where there are certain differences of opinion, even among scholars of Hinduism. In this session, we may not get into any controversial topic. We may not touch upon anything where there is difference of opinion. We are going to just refresh, in fact, the memory of most of you, for most of you would have heard what we are going to say in this 4th episode. I think it is important that a lot of our basics should be clear. We should not be too impatient to put aside the basic and try to get down to debated issues. What I mean is, both are important. Things that are supposed to be well known, but not really so well known, and then things where there may be various questions. So today what we see about Om, about Swastika, about Gayatri mantra, about Trambakam Yajamahe, Mahamrityunjaya mantra are rather non-controversial. They are the basics. They are the bricks and mortar of Hinduism. They are the nuts and bolts of Hinduism. They are the building blocks of Hindu religion and Hindu culture and Hindu way of living. There is not much of debate here. But to give you an example of what I mean by debates or debatable topics is things like, how is cow special from all other animals? Uh, what is this caste system after all? And why is it that Hinduism claims to be liberal and yet there seems to be a bit of different treatment of women and men, that is gender bias and so on, and a lot of topics taking up which there are critics who call Hinduism as defective or outdated or requiring a lot of reform and whatnot. There are so many topics. So once more and one last time, let me say that we need to dwell on both these kinds of topics. Topics which are non-controversial and topics which do have some controversies in some circles at least, if not everywhere. So now we settle down to these topics chosen for this episode 4, and the first one is Om. Om is also called Pranava. Pra plus Nava. Here Nava means that by which the highest truth is praised. Nuyate stuyate iti Navaha. Prakarshena nuyate stuyate iti va stuyate va iti Pranavaha. It is that sound, it is that symbol through which God is praised in the best possible way. Therefore, our first bullet here says, Om is the best possible pointer to the Supreme Reality. I remember long back in our Chinmaya headquarters in Mumbai, Powai, Sandipani Sadhanalaya, they had a poster on the wall. If I remember right, it was at some time in the dining hall itself. And the poster was very beautiful with some graphic and all that. But what was written below that was, God has thousands of names and Om is the best of all. Om is the best possible name. Then why not everybody go for Om only? There is a slip between the cup and the lip. Though Om may be the best sound, best name, best way to address or invoke or invite the highest divinity, why all cannot and would not go for it is, first of all, loko bhinna ruchihi. People have different tastes. Because scholars have established that it is the best name, somebody would come up and say, for me, that is not the best name. I like some other name. Loko bhinna ruchihi. People have different tastes. I was at one time, many years ago, fond of Starbucks coffee. When I lived in California, especially in the mid-90s, to have a cup of Starbucks coffee was a thrill. Now even India has Starbucks everywhere. And I was very surprised when some years ago somebody said to me, I don't like Starbucks at all. I said, how can that be? And mind you, after another few years, my taste for Starbucks coffee also sort of reduced or vanished. Anyway, I need not go to coffee now. In a lot of issues, number one, all people may not like the same name or sound or symbol or mantra. Number two, even if a bunch of people appreciate, admire, and want to recite Om, among them not all may be able to concentrate. Therefore, with regard to Om, there is the question of fitness or eligibility. You may have the permission, you may have the sanction, you may have the consent of the Shastras to recite Om, but do you have the inclination? Are you able to stay with Om, or does your mind wander? Therefore, for many reasons, Om is not recited by all. At this juncture itself, I should say that Om is regarded sacred also, and some orthodox sections say Om should not be chanted by anybody and everybody. Om should not be chanted when you have not taken bath and so on. Such questions, arise when you consider certain orthodox camps. There are liberal camps who do not worry about those things. But in the context of the orthodox camp, it will be interesting for you to know that if you say Harihi first and then say Om, then there is no issue. You may have hesitation to say Om in a certain condition, maybe you have not taken bath. But if you say Harihi, by reciting, by uttering the name of Hari Mahavishnu, you become eligible. So therefore, in a lot of places, we greet each other Harihi Om, or simplified Hari Om. All right, I would say that we will have a full webinar on Om itself, because lot is said about Om, and even masters like Swami Vivekananda have given certain deep insights into Om. So we will take up Om, for that matter, Gayatri mantra, for that matter, Mahamrityunjaya mantra also, as the only theme in certain sessions to come. Om is considered the best symbol. Symbol is called pratika. Symbol by itself is not Om, but it stands for Om. Like the national flag stands for the nation, and we salute the national flag. And then the Upanishads themselves say that if you have a greater eligibility, you are able to use or employ or handle Om on a higher plane, it is much more than symbol. It is the direct expression. The word used is vachaka. Om iti brahmanaha pratikaha api vachakaha api. By saying Om, you actually, provided you have that higher understanding, contact the highest truth. You as though go into a higher consciousness. Needless to say, that requires a lot of maturity. But Om thus is symbolic and indicative of the highest truth. Basically, Om is not the graphic symbol that we have shown here in the slide. Basically, Om is a sound. It is called the primordial sound. That means all other sounds came later. It is the primordial vibration. And it is that sound which, in a mystical manner, includes all sounds. And that's where I said this Om deserves a full session, really. Om is a sound which is not just the mother of all sounds, it is the mother, it is the father of the entire creation. Moving and unmoving, solid, liquid, and gaseous substances, things far and near, time and space, all of them are expressions of Om. So say the Upanishads. Bhagavad Gita in the 17th chapter declares that there are three very sacred sounds in this creation. And those three are Om, Tat, and Sat. Om Tat Saditi Nirdeshaha Trividaha Brahmana Smritaha is the line in that 23rd verse of the 17th chapter. Om is further appreciated as consisting of a, u, and Now, what do a, u, and stand for? They actually stand for, in fact, a number of sets of three. One set is a stands for waking state or the waking experiencer, or a stands for how you see yourself in waking. Dream or how you see yourself in dream is u, and how you see yourself in deep sleep, dreamless deep sleep is A can stand for creation, U for sustenance, for destruction. A is Brahma, U is Vishnu, is Maheshwara. A is earth, U is interspace or Antariksha, and is heaven or Swarga. That way, A is Bhuh, U is Bhuvaha, is Swaha, as we will take up in the Gayatri mantra. And A, U, and have also been connected to a certain process. We arise or we come into being, and then we evolve. We go into a mode of wanting more, achieving more, actualizing more, and so on. And then when we see on a even higher level of maturity that this wanting more, trying to get more, etc., is an endless affair. Seeing the limitations of mere acquiring and hoarding and collecting, the third part says you go into silence. Not the silence of ignorance, but the silence of great maturity. Interestingly, two great masters of the 19th and 20th centuries, one a champion of bhakti and the second a champion of jnana, both have said what is put in a box below. Ramakrishna and Ramana both said, you may find them or you may find these words in their mouths in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and it talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. And what did they say? All the Vedas are contained in Gayatri. And Gayatri is contained in Om. Therefore, Om, in a rather mystical manner, contains everything. However, the catch here is, unless we have a very pure mind, we may not reach anywhere with Om. As we evolve, as we get more Chitta Shuddhi, as we stop doing nonsensical, contradictory things on our life, as there is increased integrity, increased humility, and above all, as there is great natural alertness in us, we may say Om, and we may not require any other sadhana. That is what it means. So it should suffice in this session on Hinduism to say this much on Om. As I said, I will say one more time, we will have a full session on Om itself. Now we come to Swastika. Swastika, I had to search the internet for one picture at least without those four dots. Because swastika basically doesn't need the dots. But hundreds of pictures available on the net all have four dots. We Hindus are very fond of as much decoration as possible. To leave swastika in its simple form is rather not to our taste. Even if the lady has put the swastika in plain, her husband would come and put some flowers or dots. Or the husband has put it like that, lady would come and decorate. Or the children would do the job. It is said that Hindus are very expressive, and therefore they have expressed religious sentiments also in countless ways. Many gods, many mantras, many holy books, many symbols, many pilgrim centers, many gurus, many schools of thought. Everything is many. Anyway, this slide I have put the essential symbol of swastika. Unlike Om, swastika is a graphic symbol only. There is nothing like the sound of swastika. In Om, there is primarily the sound of Om, secondarily the graphic symbol. Now, in swastika, what it means is, as the second bullet says, swasti means well-being. Swastika, a symbol that indicates well-being. It's conducive to well-being. So wherever we put the swastika symbol, the graphic symbol, sometimes even on a coconut or on a pot, kalasha, somewhere, sometimes on the ground, sometimes on the wall, sometimes on a cloth, sometimes above a picture, sometimes below a picture, maybe sometimes on backside of a t-shirt or front of t-shirt. We are very liberal, very expressive. What it means is we are invoking well-being. Sarvesham swasti bhavatu. There is a shloka or a line of a shloka. May all be well. It is an auspicious symbol signifying good luck, well-being, and purity. And essentially, as the next slide would show more explicitly, you write a plus mark, and the plus mark, simple plus like red cross, you take that, and at the tip of, each of the four tips, you write another perpendicular line, so that after you write those perpendicular lines, it seems to be moving in a clockwise direction. And it is therefore taken as a symbol of the sun. The sun, in a manner of saying, rises every day, never gets tired. The sun moves from the east to the west and again rises in the east and goes to the west and sets. Again rises in the east, goes to the west and sets. Like that, a progressive movement. Therefore, in the third bullet, we have said, drawing from different sources, swastika is a symbol of life, of the vivifying role. Vivifying means giving life, breathing life into anything. Anything that is stagnant, anything that is not moving, anything that seems to have some problem. The concept of swastika is to bring new life into it. Vivifying is bringing new life. The vivifying role and what actually does it is the supreme principle. God alone makes everything move. God makes the rivers to flow. Without God's will, even a blade of grass does not move. These are the teachings of Sanātana Dharma. The supreme principle of the universe, the absolute God, is involved in the movement. As the fourth bullet says, it represents the activity of the principle of the universe in the formation of the world. Form the world, keep pushing it, and so on. Now, somebody remarked that one uniqueness of this symbol, like the smaller graphic here, suppose it's on the floor. You have swastika on the floor. The father is standing to the west of it, mother is standing to the east of it, son is standing to the north of it, daughter is standing on the south of it, let us say. From west and east, south and north, all of them would be seeing the same symbol. It's not so with respect to Om. As is said in some other context, suppose you write number 9 on the floor vertically, And on the head side of the head of 9, if somebody reads it, it will look like 6. What is 9 to somebody who is at the foot of 9? To him it is 9, and to the person standing opposite it becomes 6. That's given as an example for misunderstanding. Somebody says it is 6, and the other person says, I am clearly seeing it, it is 9. Communication gaps exist in all of us, everywhere. So, west or east, south or north, in the case of swastika, it will look the same. And don't bring northwest and northeast, etc. Then it will look different. But in the 4 directions, if one were to look at this symbol swastika, there is no difference at all. So swastika is essentially a very simple affair. Well-being. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu is implied by swasti. Now a couple of points more. Somewhere after 1930, that means just some 73 years ago, 70 plus 20, 93 years ago. So some 93 years ago, it seems, the Nazi party in Germany appropriated swastika and made it the symbol of their party, their movement, their mission, whatever they wanted to do, their project. So swastika was auspicious even in the West till about 1930. But what happened between 1930 and 1945, when the World War II ended, was horrendous. It was not something that could be brushed aside so easily. It impacted the whole world. It especially impacted the European countries, and much of the history was written by Europeans till recent times. Now many developing countries are waking up. Otherwise, world history meant the history written by Europeans, the English or the French, the Dutch or the Spanish, and so on. That's another topic altogether. They are the history, and we have to learn from them. Today, many scholars are saying, wait a minute, let's look at what happened from our angle of view. All right, the Nazi symbol, even when it is drawn akin to swastika, is a totally different thing. Nazi party has had its own manifesto, and the rest of it was so bad. The concentration camps and huge migration of Jewish people, and 6 million Jewish people killed during the World War II and other things, Holocaust as they call it. Nazi and the neo-Nazi, I believe, is another philosophy or school. They have appropriated. What is appropriation? What doesn't belong to them, they took and said it's ours. This is our symbol. That's called appropriating. So Nazi appropriated the swastika, though in the bottom left, the picture is with a slant, with an angle, and it doesn't exactly look like how we write swastika. But I must admit that in some of the Nazi literature, they write their symbol exactly like the Hindu swastika. Therefore, it should suffice to say that the swastika and Nazi symbol are totally different. I've heard that in Canada, I guess in Toronto or somewhere, a Hindu girl, that means a girl whose parents came from India, was carrying a swastika in her book. And the school was run by some Jewish people who had no idea about the auspicious symbol in India. So they were aghast, and they were really thinking of dismissing that student or taking some other action. Finally, the parents understood something is going wrong here. They went to the principal and clarified. And maybe for everybody to be free of any confusion. Maybe they advised the daughter not to carry that symbol, but they clarified to the principal, we have nothing to do with Nazi movement. We are not adorers or admirers of Adolf Hitler, etc. The principal had hard time accepting it. Finally, the management of the school said, oh, really? In India, this symbol is auspicious. Oh, we never knew, and so on. All right. How is this, coming back to simple swastika, how is this made? You begin with plus, as you see on top right in this slide, and then each of the tips, you put a perpendicular in the direction of a forward movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you get swastika. Let me do once more. You begin with a plus, then 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a clockwise movement if you were to see, if it's on the floor from above, clockwise movement. Because as some of you know, this clockwise and anti-clockwise again is a bit tricky thing. There is something rotating. Somebody says it's clockwise standing on one side, and somebody on the other side finds it to be anti-clockwise. So we must define in mathematics, in science, many a time this issue arises. Clockwise, looking from which angle? Standing where and looking at it. Anyway, this is swastika. I had a difficulty myself, even this morning when I was looking at the literature, that some places, like it is shown at the bottom of this slide, the symbol seems to be going in the anti-clockwise direction or backwards rather than forward. And then finally I found it in Wikipedia. I never knew this. This is not swastika, it is Swastika. And Swastika represents night or the tantric aspect of Kali. Finally, it boils down to something divine only, but in Tantra and in a whole lot of certain practices associated with Kali, things first look negative, scary, terrifying, and you would rather keep away from it. But some people who have greater patience and have some kind of intuitive faith in that practice, that symbolism, do not run away. They go into it, and if they are guided properly, they use those symbols, they use those practices where certain objectionable elements could be there, but they emerge victorious. Sri Ramakrishna also endorsed Tantra, but hastened to add, keep away from Tantra, it can be dangerous. Best is to have a sattvic mode of worship, not this rajasic or, sometimes tamasic modes and so on. Before we move on, yes, swastika is very many times written with 4 dots. The 4 dots are not integral to swastika. Just like Om also sometimes comes with a lot of decorations, some rays coming out, or some circles, 1 circle, 2 circles, and 3 circles of different shades of red or blue. But they are not integral to Om. Plain symbol of Om is what we had shown before. And here too, the 4 dots, which are very common, some haldi, some kumkum, somebody puts, and there you go, you have swastika with 4 dots. That's fine. With dots or without dots, swastika is a symbol of auspiciousness, of well-being. Mangalam, Mangalam Bhuyat, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, and so on. And with this we go to 2 more topics in this session, the Gayatri mantra. Gayatri means Gayantam Trayate iti Gayatri. That mantra, and mind you, mantra is not what is written, what is printed, those are secondary. Mantra is primarily sound. Mantra is sound which one recites and one concentrates on that sound with whatever understanding one has about the divinity of that sound. One does reflection, one does a little continued thinking. That is called manana. Therefore, mananat trayate iti mantra. That which protects. Trayate means protects. That which protects us upon our doing a lot of reflection on it is mantra. And Gayatri also, Gayantam trayate. That which protects those who recite it. In spiritual matters, proper guidance, a proper atmosphere are very important. Very few people these days recite Gayatri daily. But among those who recite also, alas, maybe a small percentage recite it in the right way, recite it with love and devotion, recite it with faith and feeling, because the human mind at this time of history is so distracted, so disturbed, so going in many directions and so on. So Gayatri mantra protects those who sing that mantra. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha or Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. I have not brought the swaras here. It has the swaras, Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita. Especially you know that the last word, Prachodayat, there is a doubling of the sound. But here we are to see the meaning. Gayatri mantra can be appreciated on many levels. One of the levels is, oh, there is a Devi Gayatri. She is the source of all power, all knowledge, all brilliance. I want to be brilliant. I want to be powerful. I don't want to stay in weakness, in fear, in worries, and so on. I want to be free of these debilitating factors. So I meditate on Mother Gayatri, Gayatri Mata. Though a certain scholar in Bangalore, or Bengaluru as they call it now, had said once, I had the opportunity to sit in his class in 1988 or so, Professor S.K. Ramachandra Rao, very great scholar he was. And he said, surprising a bunch of us who used to meet him once a week in his house, he said, oh, everybody says Gayatri is Mata. Actually, Gayatri is a masculine word. With my knowledge of Sanskrit, even my eyebrows went up. How can Gayatri be masculine? But Professor Rao said, just as the word mantri, those who know a little Sanskrit know that there is a word mantri, masculine, a minister, or Shashi, the moon. Shashi, Shashinau, Shashinaha, Mantri, Mantrinau, Mantrinaha. So he said Gayatri, Gayatrinau, Gayatrinaha. So it is a masculine word, and he said in the Vedas, this picture of Devi was not given. Interesting. Scholars sometimes have different opinions on issues. But popularly, Gayatri is taken grammatically also like Nadi Shabda. Nadi is a feminine noun in Sanskrit. Nadi, Nadyau, Nadyaha, Nari, Naryau, Naryaha, and so on. There are a number of words ending in long E which are feminine, and there is a vibhakti for it. There are a lot of words with ending in na, mantrin, but in the first case it becomes mantri, mantrinau, mantrinaha. Leave aside grammar. What does this mantra mean? As the translation is put on this slide, Om. Om is remembering the Supreme Lord. Salutations to the divine on the earth, Bhuh, on the interspace, Bhuah, Antariksha, in the heaven, Swaha or Suha. Then the verb of this is Dhimahi. In modern Sanskrit, Paninian Sanskrit, it should be Dhyayema, maybe meditate. Or, Dhyanam Kurmaha, Dhyayamaha. Yes, Dhyayamaha or Dhyayema. But Dhimahi is a Vedic usage. Dhimahi means, anyway, maybe meditate on that Tat Savitur Varenyam. Varenyam means that supreme. Bhargaha means light. Devasya of God. We meditate on the light of God. Savituhu also can mean God, because Savita can mean that which produces. Prasava, delivering. Prasuti. Sute means to bring forth. But again, popularly, Savita is taken as sun, Surya. Okay, take it that way. Now you may say, what is this multiple meanings? Let us stick to one meaning. No need really. Veda mantras are like that. They can give multiple meanings and bless humanity in multiple ways. After all, even Bhagavad Gita also is interpreted in multiple ways, and large numbers are benefited in multiple different ways. So, we meditate on the light of that supreme light of God, of the sun, which yo or yaha prachodayat naha dhiya asmakam dhiya. Dhi means thought. Dhi means intellect. It prompts our intellect. Interesting. Nowadays, there is a topic in mystical literature, intelligence beyond thought. Ordinarily, we think of all intelligence as located, as residing in thinking. Mankind has worshipped thought. That has been its blunder also. Worshipping thought, giving importance to thought, giving importance to the quantity of thought, the richness of thought, humanity has missed out something superior to thought. And that is the source of thought, and it is pure intelligence. Vedanta talks about certain pure intelligence. Thought comes later. Thought borrows intelligence from this pure intelligence. There is something pure with no division, distinction. Because the moment thought arises, there is distinction. Thought of a cow is different from thought of an elephant. Thought of yesterday's event is different from thought of what can happen tomorrow. Moment thought arises, it has boundaries, and one thought is different from another thought. But pure intelligence is the ultimate truth of the universe. And the good news is, it is the ultimate truth of our existence. Therefore, this Bhurguvasvaha, Tat Savitur Varenyam, and so on, is at once meditation on the pure self also. On one extreme, it's meditation on a deity, Gayatri Devi maybe. Or as Professor Rao would want, Gayatri Deva. Devaha Devi Va. Whether it's a masculine deity or a feminine deity, no problem. So it is worship of a deity. On the other extreme, it's contemplation upon the pure self. You and I engage so much in physical, verbal, and mental activities, and we are so tired we fall asleep. In higher spirituality, we will continue to use Kayena Vacha Manasa, but we spare time. Higher sadhana involves taking out a little time where we don't dwell on any action physically, any speech verbally, not even thinking, visualizing, not even spiritual thoughts. We rather want to stay as the light that illumines thoughts. In pure I am. So there's a lot of Vedanta philosophy which goes with Gayatri mantra. And we should have a full session on this, which we will at some time. We will conclude this session with a few words on Mahamrityunjaya mantra. The mantra says, Yajamahe, we worship, we meditate on, we adore. Whom? We adore Trambaka, the three-eyed Lord. Generally, it refers to Lord Shiva. But these Sanskrit words have their own Vaishalya, larger scope. Therefore, Trambaka can be interpreted as some other divine form too. But let's stick to a simple interpretation. Mrityunjaya, the word also generally goes with Shiva. We meditate on the three-eyed Lord Shiva, who is fragrant with all divine emanations, divine energy, divine vibrations, divine healing power is in him. Pushti Vardhanam, he enhances our nourishment. We are growing, he ensures if we connect with him. If you are feeling cold and there is fire at a certain distance, just don't sit where you are and say, that fire will warm me up. It will, but you have to go near it. Like that, we need to invoke Lord Shiva, Pushti Vardhanam. And that much is fine. It's a praise of God. Second part has a little difficulty. Literally taken, as I have also translated, there's a prayer, there's a request. The devotee says, may I be liberated, mukshiya, from death as easily as a ripe cucumber falls off the creeper, urvaruka. And a certain scholar has recently given a talk where he has answered the question which I am going to tell you what it is. It seems cucumber don't fall off on their own. Cucumber is not so easy to pluck. It is like many other fruits and many other vegetables. Some effort is needed to take a cucumber off. So the scholar, S.R. Anantamurthy, gave a talk on this, and in that he says, he studies Sayana Bhashya, he studies some other ancient commentary, and then he says, yes, really speaking, like a cucumber falls off easily is not applicable in modern times. But then Shri Murthy says, remember this Trambakam Yajamahe has been in our culture for thousands of years. So there are two possibilities. He says maybe thousands of years the cucumber plants had a certain other nature. Because human beings change, animal forms change. Plants also, their behavior changes. Another possibility, he says, is probably the word urvaruka doesn't stand for what we know as cucumber these days. It might stand for some other vegetable which was quite available during those ancient times, and later, who knows, like so many plants and birds and aquatic creatures and dinosaurs and so on and so forth have gone extinct. Probably that particular plant where the fruit would easily separate itself from the creeper is extinct. Therefore, the fact that today cucumber does not get separated in an easy manner in no way contradicts what is said here. In our times, the cucumber might be behaving differently, or the vegetable referred to here could be some other. We do not know. Therefore, more than fighting over the drishtanta, the illustration, take what is intended to be conveyed. What is meant to be conveyed is, free me from death easily and do not separate me from my innate immortality. Amritat ma mukshiya, mrityoho eva mukshiya. Literally, mukshiya is, may I be separated, and from immortality, may I not be separated. It's not imperative mode, separate me and do not separate me. Technically, structurally. Structurally, it's better translated as, may I be separated from death, may I not be separated from my innate nature of immortality, deathlessness. This is regarded as a powerful mantra. Therefore, it's not only Mrityunjaya, it is Mahamrityunjaya. And all mantras have great capacity. We are so foolish in our generation. We spend hours and hours watching the same news, watching the same serial, and going over all kinds of stuff, and we do not do mantra yoga. Take a mantra, spend some time, slowly increase the time that you spend on the mantra, and rather than making machines more intelligent, giving artificial intelligence to machines and gadgets and computers and this and that, enhance your intelligence. The tragedy of modern times is more intelligent machines and more stupid human beings. That is the tragedy. We can try to reverse that. We use machines available, but not at the cost of our own intelligence. In order to enhance our intelligence, which is the most valuable wealth with us, we need to repeat mantras like Gayatri or Mahamrityunjaya. We must work on ourselves, our physical health, our mental balance, and our brilliance in figuring out how to deal with situations are very valuable. And that is possible through spirituality. And this being a webinar on Hinduism, let me say my last sentence. Hinduism has very many practices, very many techniques, very many tools to grow inwardly, to enhance our own intellectual, mental, physical capacities, to tap the divinity from within ourselves. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shiva.